struggle of a Texas July and August is upon us. My goodness, the heat is atrocious, as you all know. It's oppressive, and we are really hoping for a different August. We're hoping that El Nino will kick us in some rain and kick us in some lower temps because we are teetering with heat indexes around 116. Yesterday was nice. We stayed in the upper 80s, but the humidity was still hot. They're promising that the humidity is going to go down this week, and so even though we're going to be 108 degrees tomorrow, it won't feel as hot as it was last week with the humidity. Ooh-wee. So let's talk about one size fits all. Is that a true statement? No, it isn't, especially in gardening, guys, because I know a lot of you are all over the country, and some of you are all over the world. So I just took you through our purple hull peas and our okra down there, and we got some pumpkins here. If the Lord puts his hand upon us, and look at that sunrise, then these pumpkins will be ready probably around mid-October, we're hoping. And then we have green beans coming up back there. We wanted to see if we could go ahead and get some more bush beans before the end of the season. And if that plays out, then we'll have bush beans around mid-September. These girls and the one boy are holding their own, guys. We do come out here and spray them down in the afternoon, and I have been giving them a very large watermelon in the afternoon time between 5 and 6 when it tends to get the hottest on them. Now there's only about 1 hour where they get sun in there that really heats them up, but guys, it is dangerous. Ooh-wee. Look at that crack. You can see I could go way down in there, probably up to my elbow, if not further. So our county's under a burn ban, thank goodness, because everything is so dry, and they have it out until October. I sure hope that's not some sort of an omen saying that we're going to be dry till October. So all this brings us to our question of what can you grow, where, when, and how? Here's some of my seed starts from last week, and these are squash and zucchini. I'm going to go ahead and pop these in my raised bed up here where we pulled up the green beans. Now, why didn't I just direct sow these? Well, guys, it's because here in Texas, most of our property is full sun, and I really wanted to control the germination, or at least try to, and keep them damp and wet where I could get them in the ground and give them a little bit of a head start, because full sun in Texas is not really full sun. Now in Texas and in the South, we have 3 really good growing seasons, with the exception of these hot months, and sometimes we have 4 growing seasons where we can plant things and they'll survive through our winter, but that's iffy, and that depends on the weather patterns. And if we don't have anything in the ground, we normally have some things in seed trays. So sometimes what we're planting here in the South and in Texas is not necessarily what you can plant somewhere else in the country. For instance, here in Texas, we cannot grow our whole garden at the same time, and I know a lot of you, especially up in the Northeast, I've seen where you're growing your onions, your brassicas, your tomatoes, your garlic, everything all at the same time. We can't do that here because of the heat, and our brassicas will burn up and they'll start to bolt, and that goes for our lettuces, that goes for radishes, broccoli, cauliflower, any of your cool weather plants. So sometimes I'm envious that you guys can grow everything at the same time, but I'm not envious of your winters and your short growing season, because we do have a very long growing season, 9 to 10 months, I would say. And again, if we're not growing something in the ground, we certainly have seed starts going. So when you're planting your garden, there's a couple of things, or several things, that you want to take into consideration. Now, the regenerative methods that we're using will work anywhere that you're growing, and that's using the EM1, the Bokashi, compost, organic compost. Those all will work no matter where you're at. But what you're planning on growing depends on where you're planning on growing it. So there's different There's kind of different rules for container gardening, for raised bed gardening, for in-ground gardening, for high tunnel gardening, greenhouse gardening. These are all different environments for your plants, and you need to take that into consideration. For instance, if you're growing in a raised bed, you can convert that pretty quick to the regenerative method by putting your mycorrhizal fungi and by putting your bokashi. But if you're growing in the ground like we are on the back lot, it's not going to be that quick of a transition for us. It is probably going to be a several-year process, and we're already into year 2 with it. So although in the past we've been able to add organic matter to our container garden, our large tubs, we have found this year that we pretty much have to start all over in our container tubs with some new dirt, because there's only really so much you can do unless you're using conventional fertilizers. If you're using conventional fertilizers, you can probably keep it alive because your plant is not thriving off the soil, it's thriving off whatever it is you're feeding it. But for us, because we're using the regenerative gardening method and trying to keep our soil living so that our vegetables taste good and we get our vitamins and nutrition out of it, we're finding that we're going to have to start changing those out probably after every growing season, which can be a pretty big task. Now, if you're growing in a raised bed, that's not necessarily true. You can continue to revamp the soil in your raised bed, at least depending on how big it is. Our raised beds are probably about 2.5 feet tall, and we can continue to add organic matter, because at the bottom, although we put a weed barrier, which was cardboard at the beginning, the roots are still able to go down deep if they need to go into the ground and find some nutrients. And then what we're adding to it with the mycorrhizal fungi and the bokashi and stuff like that, and organic matter, it is keeping it fed and seeping down into the soil, whereas your containers will have that plastic barrier. And what that plastic barrier allows is that whenever you're watering it, a lot of your nutrition and a lot of your matter is washing out each time that you feed it. Water it, sorry. So you can see our tomatoes in there in that big high tunnel. They are planted directly in the ground. Everything in that big high tunnel is planted directly in the ground. And we just continually add organic matter to that. And that goes the same as your raised beds, is that your minerals and your nutrients aren't washing out. They're just washing a little bit deeper into the soil for the most part. But we do continue to add organic matter to it and keep it fed and keep our soil living. So our first frost or freeze date is around the middle of November. So everything that we are planting right now, like the pumpkins and the green beans and the squash and zucchini, we'll have plenty of time to get a harvest in, the Lord willing, before we get to our first freeze. But up north, it's way different. I mean, just a couple hours north of us can be very, very different. But I do know that up in Vermont, they were having freezes until just about a couple of months ago. So they really had a hard time getting their garden started, whereas we were already going pretty strong by March. So when the temperature is like 108 degrees, it's really, really hard to get motivated to think about a fall garden. But guys, we're bumping up against now 90 days, and 90 to 120 days. And so we have this very small time frame where we need to go ahead and get our seeds started so that we can beat that first frost. So anything that's 120 days, guys, we're looking at the middle of November. A lot of what we're planting is 90 days to 110, but we are bumping up against the 120-day mark. Now, your brassicas may survive a light frost or a light freeze, but they won't a continued blow. At least that's what I found. You guys may have found something totally different. But for us, we've seen them survive 1 or 2, but not an extended time of a freeze or a frost or cold weather. So while our purple hull peas are coming up out there, our okra is producing very well, our peppers are producing well because they like the heat, we are already having to think about planting carrots and some of our root crops like our beets and our turnips. What we will not be thinking about planting yet are our radishes and our lettuces. I've got some spinach started up there, and I think that we'll be okay once it gets big enough for me to transplant. But so this is where you start determining and backing up what you should be planting now and what you should be starting now, depending on where your area is at and the time of the fruition. I saw a report yesterday where they say that El Nino is going to be moderate to very strong and maybe even a record-breaking El Nino. And they're comparing it to 1997 and 1998, and then I think 2014 and 15 or something. So I went back and looked at the weather for 97 and 98 in our area, and it looks like South Texas and East Texas got hit pretty hard with some ice storms and some snow. It looks like we got a little bit of ice and snow here, but it doesn't look like we got what they got in East Texas and down in Houston. What we want mostly from the El Nino is the rain. We desperately need the rain. We had started coming out of the drought. Our lakes had started to fill, but now they are going back down very rapidly. We have not gotten any rain. There's been rain all around us, but mainly to the far north, maybe an hour, hour and a half from us. So we've not gotten anything down here. Also, when you're planting your garden, you need to decide with your family what your objective is. Are you growing a spring and summer garden just to enjoy the summer and spring vegetables and really not be too worried about preservation? So then you can keep a smaller garden or a container garden. Are you growing a garden large enough that you want to can up things to store in your pantry to help your family grocery bill throughout the year? Well, you know then that you're going to have to expand your garden. Or are you like us, who is trying to start a market garden, but also put on the pantry and also enjoy our vegetables throughout the year? Then you're going to need quite the spot to do so. Now, we have probably well over 100, if not more, tomato plants in there. And we sold quite a bit this year. And we are so thankful to the Lord. But not only have we sold quite a bit, I have canned tomatoes out the wazoo. We have canned salsa, and we have canned pasta sauce, and we have canned tomato sauce. Now, Greg has been canning for the last 3 days, and he has added close to 30 jars to our 365 canning challenge. And so that's really moving up. But praise the Lord, we really don't expect that we're going to have to worry about any kind of diced tomatoes or tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce until our harvest, maybe even next year. But guys, we're replanting tomatoes right now. We've already got the seeds started, so we expect to have some before our first freeze. And that's another thing you want to think about is, are you trying to get in a second tomato harvest? Now, a lot of you said clip off and take the suckers and put in water, and we did. And guys, they're not doing so hot because of the heat here, and we've got them in shade. So we do have seed starts going. Now, last year we attempted to just prune them back very heavily and keep them alive, but it was just too brutal. The heat was too brutal, and we were trying to spend way too much time keeping them alive. And so this year we opted to go ahead and start new seeds. Now, we agree that there's certain techniques that will help you prosper and help your plants to prosper, but we certainly don't believe in the one little trick things, because there really isn't one little trick that's going to help you in your garden, because there's so many other things that come into play. Your feeding, your watering, your weather, your climate, your soil, everything comes into play. Do you have sandy soil? Do you have sandy loam soil? Do you have red dirt soil? Do you have black gumbo like we do? There's all kinds of things you need to consider and do some research on what's going to grow best in your soil, and then understand how you need to modify it if you want to change it to grow whatever it is you're looking to grow. And guys, you can do this. You can learn to modify your soil, whether it's with organic matter, or whether it's with the Bokashi system or the mycorrhizal or a cover crop. These are all things that you can do to modify your soil to get planted what it is your goals are and what you want to plant. The key is you want living soil. You want the microbiology in your soil. You want the good fungus in your soil, so that you can be successful, but you can also feed back your plants what they really need to feed back into you. Our bodies are a lot like what our vegetables need, believe it or not. Your vegetables need calcium and magnesium and boron and all these things, and all these things is what your body needs too. You have a microbiology in your gut, and if you can get that into your fruits and your vegetables, then you're going to be getting it back into your body. Just remember, what you put into your mouth is what feeds your body. And our farmland out here has been depleted, and that's why they use the commercial fertilizers, which we are not going to use. I know we will never use them again, because Greg is really focused on this regenerative gardening, because he wants our food to be our medicine. He wants it to give us the nutrition and the minerals that we need. And I agree with him. Now, it's really hard whenever I see insects starting to happen or aphids or something like that. I want to react and get rid of them. But his philosophy is, no, we're not going to go and just start spraying, even though it's organic. Neem oil is organic or OMRI approved. He's like, nope, we're not going to do that. He is set on finding out why the bugs are attracted to the plants and what the plants need to fight off the bugs themselves. And one of the examples he has is, we have an okra plant over here, and it was just infested with aphids, and we got 2 or 3 in this bucket, and he used it as a test. We didn't spray anything on it, no neem, no insecticidal soap, and he kept adding to the soil what he thought it needed, and guess what? The aphids disappeared. So that is his test plant that he did, and now he knows what our okra may need when or if they start showing signs of bug damage, and we're not seeing any like we were last year. We did have aphids on the okra inside the high tunnel, but this year we're not seeing it because he was able to figure out what exactly the okra plant, the soil and the okra plants needed to fight off the insects on themselves. And that goes with anything that you are growing. Another example of things here in Texas is whenever I got my chicks, there was some concern that we were putting heat on them and put a heat lamp, and a lot of people on other channels were saying that you don't do that because if you lose your electricity, you know, they may freeze or, you know, this and that. But the fact of the matter is we are having 108-degree days. Our heat indexes are 116 degrees. Our chickens are enduring this extreme heat, and they will continue to for the next couple of months. I just don't think that they're going to be able to endure the cold, where maybe somewhere else in the country you have milder summers and cold winters where they can get acclimated quickly. I just don't think that I just don't think that our chickens would survive if we did not provide them some kind of heat source, and we will this year because, guys, it is just brutally hot, and it's just such a different climate here. So for those of you here in Texas that are planning on growing a fall garden, that your plants have 90 to 120 day seed to harvest, you need to start thinking. Your window's closing very quickly on getting your seed starts. And so I got to get some cauliflower. I just got my seed, and I got to get some cauliflower in the seed trays because those are going to be real close. I'm going to go ahead and get some more cabbage started and some more brassicas started. And again, I'm going to hold off on more of my chard kale's doing fine, but I'm going to hold off on lettuces and any of those cool, really, really cool variety plants like lettuces and radishes. I'm sure there's some others I'm forgetting. You guys be sure and comment below and let me know. But yeah, if you're in Texas and you're in the South, your time is running out to go ahead and get your seeds going. Now you can wait and buy some already started plants, but I'll tell you, I don't ever see any already started plants here in Texas for a fall garden. I've just not seen them. They may be changing, but it's been several years since I've had to go to the nursery or to one of the big box stores and get our plants, because we do our own seed starts. So maybe they're doing that now. Y'all have to let me know that as well. So right now the market, really, we really don't have anything to share other than okra, peppers, and hopefully, goodness gracious, guys, those purple hulls will start coming in. But we don't have anything to share right now. That's going to change probably in the next 45 days. So what we're focusing on right now is Greg is building us a website, and we will be selling our herbs and maybe our salsa and our seeds on the website. I will keep you guys updated on that and let you know when that's available. And so many of you commented and said you're just ready to support us, and that is completely awesome, and I'm so thankful for all of you, and we appreciate you guys. But this website's also going to allow us to allow our local customers to place their order online and pick up, and we'll probably do some delivery here in our local area. We're doing our best to get this market kicked off, guys, and we are evaluating. Oh, this is another thing. You want to evaluate what it is you want to grow. If you're selling to the public, you want to think about what your public is going to buy. What do they want? Now, of course, tomatoes are number one. People want tomatoes number one, and then I did a poll on my Facebook page, and then cucumbers came up as number 2, and squash and zucchini, of course. But those are all early summer varieties that people can't wait to get their hands on and taste the fresh. But you know what? That kind of dwindles. That dwindles as the summer goes on. People kind of don't want squash anymore. The cucumber craze kind of goes away, and even the tomato phase kind of starts to drift away. People just get their feel, but we're hoping that that's going to change come the fall. Whenever we have more tomatoes, it's going to give our customers a little break on coming out, because we did have great support from our community. But it probably, you know, about a 2 month, about a 60-day break before we're able to have tomatoes anymore. So these are all things to consider when you're planning your garden or your farm. You want to make sure and gauge what you think your customer is going to like. Now, we think our customers are going to like, in the fall, mustard greens. We think they're going to like collard greens. We think that they're going to like the broccoli and the cauliflower, certainly carrots. Beets were a big seller. Even my canned beets were a big seller. So there's certain things that I know we need to plant for our customer base. And then there's certain things I know I need to plant for our pantry, and certain things that my family likes. So these are all things to take into consideration when you're planning your garden. So I hope this helps you guys. We sure love you, and we are so appreciative of all of you guys for following us, and all you new subscribers, thank you so very much. And if you're new to our channel, we want to tell you that we have the absolute best community out there. And guys, don't give up. Don't give up. You know, you may have to work through some things, but don't give up, because you can do this. Whether you're container gardening, whether you're raised bed gardening, whether you're gardening in the ground, you can do this. So praise the Lord that it's a little cool right now. That's going to change quickly. Again, we're going to be up to 108 degrees today and tomorrow and the rest of the week. But I'm really hoping that August is going to give us a much milder normal than August. So take care, guys. God bless you all. We will see you soon.